Well, what is it? It's a Windbreak mounted to my jet sled for ice fishing. Stick around and I'll show you how I built it. Welcome to Outside Michigan. On today's show we're going to do a little DIY project, starting with my jet sled, which I use for ice fishing, hunting, camping. Today we're going to focus on ice fishing, and we're going to take the first step in turning this sled into a mobile fishing platform, mobile ice fishing platform. And that first step is going to be to mount a Windbreak sled, and we're going to do that with some pretty basic material. 6x8 blue poly tarp. That's a cheapo. I got that for $3 at the dollar store. I have about $7 wrapped up into this electrical conduit, gray electrical conduit, 2 pieces of 1 inch, 10 by 10 foot, and 1 piece of 3/4 inches by 10 foot. And then with all the fittings, I've got another, it's about $6 or $8 into this thing. We'll start by mounting the tarp to the sled. All we did here was lay the tarp out on the sled, just like that. Laid it out mostly even. It's a little bit bunched up right there, but that won't have much impact on what we're doing right here. And then what we're doing here is we pull this down where we think it's going to be comfortable. You want to have it wrapped up under this lip right here. Get it under the lip, because if you don't, the wind will catch it and you'll have wind underneath your tarp and make it sing. But just pull it up under here. Grab a hold of the grommets and just pull them with your fingers and put a little tension on them and see how far you can pull them. And then I eyeballed it, but you can take a tape measure and measure from the back to about where your grommets are, and that's where you want to drill 2 holes. And we'll take a look at what those look like here. About a 3/16, I believe. I just grabbed a bit that looked right. I didn't even check it, but about a 3/16 inch hole right there. So we'll go ahead and mount the tarp. We'll put some cable ties in there to hold that in place. We flip the tarp back out of the way. We're going to go ahead and mount this using the holes that are already drilled here. We'll use a black cable tie. Go down through the inside hole here. Then through the back of the tarp, which would be the outside of the tarp, first into that grommet. You want to make sure that that's going to be the back side of it, so that way it doesn't get all twisted. And then we'll just go ahead and hook it up. And I'm just going to lock it on there, but I'm not going to tighten it down. We're going to leave everything loose until we get to a point where we're finished. So we'll tighten up when we're finished. The problem with tightening everything up now is we won't be able to make any adjustments if we need to later to make things fit together. So right now, we'll just leave everything a bit loose. Repeat the process on this side. Push it up through the second hole. And get it to lock here, if you will. Nope, there we go. Alright, now we'll move on to the front set of holes. Now I've already drilled these too. Alright, the way I laid the front holes out was pretty similar to the way I did the back holes, except I just pulled it forward as far as I could and got it tight. And just made 2 little marks right there with my marker, and then drilled my 2 holes side by side. And we'll go ahead and mount this up. Again, going through the inside hole, keeping the outside of the tarp, the bit part that's going to be your shelter part. It's going to be on the outside when this thing is popped up. You want to keep that where it needs to be so we don't get everything twisted up here. And then lead that back through the second hole. And there we go. We'll repeat the process on the other side. Alright, the next step is to set the sled down and get a general idea of just how long our supports are going to need to be, and then figure out exactly how we're going to wrap this thing up. It's kind of like wrapping a present. It's a, this tarp is 6 by 8. It's a rectangle. We're trying to get it into a little bit more complex shape, so we'll have to just kind of work with it and play it by ear. All right, I've cut 2 supports off of my 1-inch conduit. Those are 6 inches long, and these are going to be mounted inside the sled. And the way these are going to work, here's the conduit that I'm going to use. This is going to go, this will be the bottom of my main support. This will be where this attaches to the sled. And the way this will work is when I get this cut to length, that'll just slide right in there on the sled. I've cut these. What I've got to do with these supports now is figure out, just get a rough estimate of where they need to go. I'm going to put one side on, get it figured out where it needs to go, and then measure that, and then put the other one on. I'll actually use the tape measure for the second one, and it should come together. Alright, the first thing I need to do is figure out a rough angle for that support. And what I want to do here is I've got the 6-foot side of the tarp right here. It's a 6 by 8 tarp. That's the 6-foot side. I want to attach the center grommet on the 6-foot side and one of the 2 center grommets on the 8-foot side to my pole. And this grommet, this corner piece is going to be just a little bit of, it's going to be extra. We'll figure out what to do with it in the end. And what I want to do is pull this grommet until it's tight. Pull this one until it's tight. Get them around the side there so that it's going to be pretty accurate. And then just get a rough guesstimate of just about where that little deal will need to go. And it looks like it's not much of an angle. It's going to be pointing just about straight up. So that works for me. And then I'll take my support, set it right there where that was, and that will just give me a general idea of where it's going to go, and I'll eyeball the angle on that. Okay, the bell on the conduit is roughly 2 1/4 inches deep. These are 6 inches, and what I've done here is I've marked them at 2 1/2 inches. That's going to be the part that the bell covers right there. Then I'll mark them on this side at 1 1/2 and 3 inches. And that's let's make that 1 1/2 and 2 1/2 inches. Otherwise, at 3 inches, we'll be up too close to the lip. So we'll put our bolts about 1 inch apart, and try to drill them as close to in line with each other as we can. One and a half and 2 1/2. Then we'll clamp these down to the table and drill them. Alright, we'll go ahead and drill these 4 holes out. I'm just going to drill all the way through. This table is just a little something I threw together, so. Alright, I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll get these mounted up. Okay, we're going to drill the other side to put the other support on temporarily. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's just a little mark right there. What I did was I measured the hole up top, the distance from the back, and then the distance from the top. I measured it from back here, and then from here over, and that's where I'm gonna put this hole in the same place on this side, and then we'll mount up both of those supports. Alright, now the holes are drilled. We're going to mount our supports. You can use a 1/4 machine screw and nut, and The way we get the nut in there on the inside is going to be just put it on my finger like that, hold it into place, run the bolt through, or the machine screw, and just got to get it started. Once you get it started, it's pretty easy. Tighten it down using these quarter 20 screws. Have a number 3 Phillips slot on them, so Phillips head. I'm going to tighten that down until it's pretty stiff, and we're going to use this as we kind of measure out our upright supports. And see, I just used my finger to hold the nut in there because now the curvature, the radius of this conduit is holding the nut. It's not spinning. So there we go. We'll mount the other side, and then we'll get ready to build the uprights. What I'm going to do now is bring up the tarp to the portion that I wanted to hook into here. Set the bell down over my support, my little upright there. I'm going to pull this up where I want it, and then pull that to where we want it. Keeping it tight. And then lean it forward. I think we're going to be good about right there. Okay, we've marked our conduit for the length we want our tarp to extend to. But what we have to do before we cut it off, we can't cut it at this mark because then it'll be too long. What we have to do is factor in this elbow. It's two 45s together to make a 90. And the way we'll do that is to use this T-square. And I'll just get it on there and kind of get a real quick measurement. Alright, that says we're losing about 11 inches. This is about 11 inches long, and then you've got 1.25 inches in the bell. So 9 3/4 is what we have to knock off of the measurement of our conduit here. Alright, I think I've got some room to play with here as far as adjusting the angle on my supports. I've got 47.5 inches to my mark here. I figured I needed to knock 9 3/4 off. That would be 38.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is just knock 9.5 off and give myself that extra 1/4 inch of length. We'll just go down to 38 inches. We'll mark that and then cut that off. Alright, we'll go ahead and mark the other conduit, cut it off, and get ready to start putting this together. Alright, we don't need to cut a bar to go across the top here, because once you put these two elbows together and put that coupling on the end of one elbow, they overlap. So what we really need to do is figure out where is upright without pushing out on the side at all. Mark this pipe. We'll measure the inside of the bell on the coupling. About 1 inch exactly, so I'll add 1 inch to that mark. We'll hack this elbow off and we'll be good to go. We can see how the crossbar is going to work. We've attached it across here, these elbow sections with a coupler here in the middle. We'll take that off, get the uprights on there, put the crossbar on top of the uprights, and start attaching the tarp. Alright, we've got both of our uprights and our crossbar here. We're going to put these together. Slide that conduit up in there. Now this whole thing is going to be kind of flimsy and twisty, but we're going to drive screws into the connections here to hold everything together. And that's how that goes together right there. We're going to lay them on the table, and you see they rock a little bit. We're going to try to get everything as straight and true as we can here before we assemble it. Before we actually put some fasteners in here. That looks pretty good. Alright, I'm just going to drill a hole through each of these 4 bells here to fasten the elbows together and fasten them to the uprights. I'm not going to drill the coupling yet because that is going to need a hole for our back support that's going to keep everything from flipping back on its own. And I'm just going to drill that, and then we'll situate that where it goes when we put the support in. But for now, we'll just bust a hole there. Alright, we'll switch bits and drive some screws in there. I'm using number 8 sheet metal screws. I know this is plastic. It's not really going to matter. All these really are going to do is act as a pin to keep the conduit from spinning. Once we put it all together, we'll keep it all pretty straight. Alright, now we'll bring the sled back over here, mount this up, pull the tarp over. I'm not sure what we're going to get because, like I said, that's a rectangular tarp. We're putting it into a little bit more complex shape. Not exactly sure how it's going to work out, but we'll find out. Alright, we've got our upright right here with our crossbar. When I originally envisioned this, I envisioned having shoulders that were a little more square. So, you know, this is a pretty adaptable project, and I'm playing it by ear, so I'm not too worried about it. But that's going to kind of change our attachment point for the tarp. We'll figure that out. We'll get that mounted onto the sled here. Like that. I'll bring you in closer and we'll figure out just exactly where we're going to mount this thing. Alright, we'll pull the tarp up here. Like I had said, my original plan kind of had these grommets out here a little bit, but we have, with these rounded shoulders, that's going to change the plan a little bit. What we'll do is we'll lean this back so it locks over the top of the bar, crossbar. We'll wrap this tarp down to a point where we've got a good attachment spot, and that will give us the ability to put some tension on this tarp. And that's going to do it right there. I'm going to lock the grommets right below each of these couplings here. Alright, I'm going to pull this grommet to the position where it's going to be hooked at here. And again, I've got some room to play with because I can change the angle of my upright here to any angle I want. So I'm just going to mark a spot in the center of that tube, or that conduit. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Bring it up. Just put the grommet right there. Doesn't matter if it's up there. We already know where it's going to go. I just want to get a better idea where to put my drill my hole. Okay, the way we're going to attach this is with a number 8 sheet metal screw and a fender washer to hold that grommet down. Look just like that, and that'll lock that grommet in place. First, we've got to pre-drill some holes. Okay, we'll drill the pilot holes for our sheet metal screws. Both of these. We're ready to attach the first 2 grommets. Now, just like everything else with this project, we're going to leave everything loose until we get to a point where we're sure we've got everything fit together right. I'll just turn this in there enough to hold it in place. Still pretty loose. Now we'll get the other side. Hold this back where it's going to work. There. So leaving it pretty loose. Alright, that's a general idea of what it's going to look like. The next step is to put a support bar to go from the top of here, from inside here, down to the back of the sled, or that's technically the front of the sled, but that's going to be the back when you're sitting up here. Now I've got a plan for attaching a removable front support, and what that involves, and I probably should have done this before I put the tarp on, is drilling a hole right in this front lip. If I can do it without my bit wandering on this corner. Widen that out a little bit because I don't want to have to fight with getting my support in there. Now I've also drilled a hole in this coupling, and that hole should line up pretty close to the hole on the bottom that we just drilled, and that's all for our back support. And now I'll show you how we're going to what we're going to put as a support to keep this thing from flopping back. Now we're using gray conduit for this project because it's cheap for the most part. I got $7 into the conduit itself and a little bit more than that into the fitting, so probably about 12, 14 bucks. I don't remember what I said at the beginning of the video. Anyways, we're using 1 inch for the frame, and then for my back support, which is going to go toward the back of the shelter or the front of the sled, depending, because we've got this attached to the front. That's going to be made out of 3/4 inch, and the way I'm going to attach that is the holes that I drilled in the front and the hole that I drilled in the coupling in the center of the crossbar. I've got caps for this 3/4 inch, and I've drilled a hole and put a 1/4-20 screw through there with a nut, tighten it down real tight. That is going to go into the back, the hole in the sled at the top of the lip, and this one will go into the coupling in the frame. But the first thing we have to do is measure it up for size. Okay, the light's not real good back there. I don't know if you can see how this is going to work, but it's pretty self-explanatory. That just slides into the hole back there. And we'll bring you up here. Back it off just a little. Now, this is our main frame. I'm going to stretch that nice and tight and even give myself a little bit of extra here. Now we'll cut that to length. I'll attach these caps, get everything lined up, and then we can tighten everything down. Now I finished the back support bar, kind of like the way I put the other frame together. I drilled a pilot hole, fastened those caps on with a number 8 sheet metal screw. Did that there. Now we'll do a test fitting on the sled and see how that works out. Alright, that slides easy enough into the hole back there. Now we'll bring it up here. See if we can make it fit into the frame. There we go. And that hole looks pretty tight. Now we still have to finish attaching the last grommets to the upright. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. I know these They're going to go right here on both sides. Then I got to figure out what to do with this extra. Okay, that all fits together pretty solid. You know, that lifts the front of the sled up. That's fit together pretty good. Nice tight spine on there. The next step is to straighten out our frame here. Actually, I'll take that back off and twist these forward as far as I can, and while still keeping them straight. Then I'm going to drill a hole and drive a screw here and here to lock that in place, because that's the weak spot on our frame right here. And I'll do that off camera because you guys have already seen drilling and, you know, driving screws. And then we'll come back and finish attaching the tarp. All right, next we're going to attach these grommets here. This is a pretty simple procedure. We'll just pull that up as tight as we can. Use the pencil. Mark a spot right there. In fact, there's already a little dot there that looks like it might work. Go around to the other side. Do the same thing. Pull it up tight. Get it centered about as best we can. Mark a spot, and we'll drill them out. Next thing is to fasten them on there. Okay, again, to fasten these on, we're using number 8 sheet metal screws to push through a fender washer. Drop that one down there and just hold one at a time. Pull them up tight. You remember early on I said this was going to be kind of like wrapping a Christmas present. That's not one of my strong suits right there, is wrapping a Christmas present. So I'm going to just try to fold this the best I can. Get a nice clean of a fold as we can. Fold that up tight back here. Wrap everything around the front as much as possible. Bring this over here. Pull it tight, and we're going to attach this under the arch of our upright. And we'll do the same on the other side. Under there. Pull it tight. Okay, re-drill those and go ahead and get those attached. Well, there it is, the Windbreak on my ice fishing sled. I've got less than $20 into that, and that's going to do exactly what I wanted it to do. It's going to be a Windbreak. Alright, well here's the sled all broken down and ready for transport. I wanted to break it down before I take it out on the ice just to make sure that, because I don't want to be dragging it across the ice with the top up, with the canopy up, and I can't fit it in my Jeep with the canopy up. So I wanted to make sure I'd be able to break it down. Now, let's see if you goes back together the way we planned. And the way we'll do this, we'll flip our supports forward, lift this up, flip those back, and those will fit together like that. This side comes over here, same thing. And we take our back support, slide it into the hole in the lip at the back of the shelter, which is actually the front of the sled. Pull the top over, line up the hole, boom, there it is. That's our windbreak. That's going to work. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll take a look at the top of it here and see how that came together. It's not pretty, but it's going to block the wind from me. It breaks down. I can use it to cover my gear in the sled as I go out to the ice and back from the ice. And there's one other thing that I figured out with this. If I flip the sled like so, put it on that support. Here's my back spine support here. I've actually got a fully enclosed shelter there. It's kind of small, but I tried it out and it works. I'll take you inside there and you can see just how tight it is. Okay, it's a little bit of a tight fit at first. Then you just drop this top down and here's what we got. Not a ton of room in front of me. But if I needed to cover up, if it was, you know, freezing rain or something like that, I can deal with the snow. But I could use it as an enclosed shelter. It's tight, but it would work if I had to. Now I probably won't use this much as an enclosed shelter, but it's good to know that the option's there. Mostly I'll use it for the windbreak. I like to be mobile on the ice, and this will help me do that. That's how you catch fish. I've got a clam hub shelter, but it's a bit of a pain once you set it up, and you got to anchor it to the ice, and it's big enough for 3 people. It's warm. You can fish in it all day long. The problem with it is you can't move. You know, it takes a lot of work to move it around the ice, and I'd rather spend that energy drilling holes and catching fish. So this will help me do that. And of course, this is just phase 1. The next phase, I got a boat seat over here. Got my coat on it right now, but phase 2, I'm going to mount a comfortable seat on the front of the sled, and there's more to come after that. We'll mount a platform for my Vexilr, some rod holders, and whatever else I can think of. I'm limited by my imagination here. Thanks for watching. Please comment. I want to hear from you. I'm trying to improve my channel the best I can. I'm not a professional videographer, obviously, like so many of us here on YouTube, but I do want to make my channel better, and the comments help with that, and I appreciate all the comments that I get. Also, please subscribe. I appreciate all the support I've gotten lately. I've gotten a lot of subscribers that have added just in the last month or so, and I really appreciate that. And stick around. I've got a lot of things coming up.